In the sun-drenched hills of Arcadia, where the olive trees twist like ancient dancers and the air smells of wild honey, lived two young men named Elian and Theron. They had been friends since they were small enough to hide in grape vats, but as they grew into manhood, a shadow began to fall between them. It was not the shadow of a mountain, but the shadow of comparison. Theron was built like the marble statues of Zeus. His shoulders were broad, his legs were like cedar trunks, and when he ran, the earth seemed to tremble in respect. He was the star of the local wrestling ring. Every time he threw an opponent into the dust, the village cheered. He wore a wreath of wild celery, and his name was spoken with awe in the marketplace. Then there was Elian. Elian was slight of frame. His hands were not calloused from the spear or the wrestling mat, but stained with the juice of berries and the soot of the forge. Elian was a creator. He could carve wood so fine it looked like silk, and he could play the lyre with such gentleness that even the stubborn mountain goats would stop to listen. But Elian was unhappy. Every evening, as the sun dipped behind the Aegean Sea, turning the water into liquid gold, Elian would sit on a stone wall and watch Theron being hoisted onto the shoulders of the village men. "Look at him," Elian would whisper to himself, his heart feeling like a heavy lead weight. "He is a hero. He is strong. He is useful. What am I? I just make pretty things. My arms are thin. I am a shadow next to a sun." Elian began to try to be Theron. He put down his carving tools and went to the wrestling pits. He tried to lift the heavy stones, but his back groaned and his breath came in ragged gasps. He tried to sprint against the wind, but his legs failed him. The village did not cheer. They watched with pity. "Why are you doing this, Elian? You have the hands of an artist." "Because an artist is not a champion," Elian snapped, his eyes burning with envy. He stopped playing his lyre. He hid his carvings under a coarse cloth. He looked at Theron's life, the praise, the strength, the roar of the crowd, and decided that his own life was a mistake. He felt like a broken clay pot in a palace of golden vases. Today, we do the same thing. We sit in our modern marketplaces, our phones and our computers, and we watch the Therons of the world. We see the person who has the perfect body, the person who just bought a house, or the friend who seems to be winning every race. We look at our own quiet lives, our small hobbies, and our slow progress, and we feel less than. We try to wrestle when we were meant to sing. One day, a wandering philosopher named Anax lived in a small cave near the village. He was old, with a beard as white as the foam on the sea. He saw Elian sitting by a stream, looking miserably at his thin reflection in the water. "You are trying to drink from a dry well, young one," Anax said, leaning on his staff. "I am trying to be someone who matters," Elian replied. "I want to be like Theron. He is the best of us." Anax smiled and sat down. He took a small bronze mirror from his robe and a rough, unpolished stone from the ground. "Tell me, Elian," the old man said, "which is better, this mirror which shows the world as it is, or this stone which can be thrown to defend a home? The mirror is beautiful, but the stone is strong. It depends on what you need." "Exactly," Anax said. "If the mirror tries to be a stone, it shatters and becomes useless. If the stone tries to be a mirror, it fails and loses its purpose. The world does not need two Therons. It already has one. But the world is currently missing an Elian, because Elian is too busy being a second-rate Theron." A week later, a great storm rolled in from the sea. It was a storm like the anger of Poseidon. The winds tore the thatch from the roofs, and the heavy rains caused a landslide that blocked the main path to the mountain spring. The village was in trouble.
Theron stepped forward. He used his incredible strength to move the smaller rocks. He worked until his muscles screamed. But there was one massive boulder, a giant of a stone that would not budge. No matter how hard he pushed, the stone stayed firm. The village was losing hope. Elian stood back, watching. He didn't try to push the stone. Instead, his artist's eye began to look at the angles. He saw the way the water was flowing under the rock. He remembered the principles of the lever he had used in his workshop to move heavy logs. "Stop!" Elian shouted. He ran to his workshop and grabbed a long, sturdy beam of oak he had been seasoning for a year. He brought several smaller, round stones. While the others watched in confusion, Elian wedged the stones under the boulder and used the oak beam as a lever. He didn't use brute force. He used his mind. He used the skill he had developed through years of carving and building. With one sharp, calculated movement, the giant boulder groaned, tilted, and rolled down the hill. The path was clear. That night there was no wrestling and no running. The village sat together, exhausted but safe. Theron walked over to Elian and sat beside him. Theron's hands were bloodied and raw. "I could have pushed that rock for 1,000 years and never moved it. My strength was not enough. We needed your vision." Elian looked at his thin hands. They weren't stained with soot today. They were steady. For the first time in years, he didn't need to hide them. "And I," Elian said, "would have been crushed by the wind if you hadn't held the roof of the granary in place while the storm raged. I am not you, Theron." "And thank the gods for that," Theron laughed. "One of me is plenty of trouble for this village." The lesson from the olive groves is this: your value is not a fixed number that goes down when someone else's goes up. Life is not a single race where we are all heading to the same finish line. It is a vast, beautiful landscape. Some are meant to climb the peaks, some are meant to plant the valleys, and some are meant to map the stars. When you compare yourself to others, you are essentially saying that the Creator made a mistake in making you unique. You are trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and all you get for your effort is a bruised soul. Your slow is someone else's steady. Your quiet is someone else's peace. Your different is exactly what the world will one day need to move a boulder. Stop looking at the athlete's wreath if you were born to hold the lyre. The music you make is the only thing that can fill the silence of your own life. Be the best version of you, for that is a crown that no one else can wear, and a race that you have already won the moment you decide to stop looking at the lanes next to you.